Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fringe Coverage. This podcast profiles the stories, swings, and stars of the LPGA Tour. And whether you're new to women's golf or a longtime fan, hopefully this podcast helps you develop your own rooting interest in women's professional golf. And Tom, man, I don't even know where to start. That was by far the most entertaining golf tournament I can remember in a really long time, men's or women's. Nelly Korda wins the 81st U.S. Women's Open presented by Ally at the Riviera Country Club. Does it get any better than what we just watched over the last 4 days?
No, I think it was just a fantastic tournament start to finish. It was great being there on site on Thursday. Nelly didn't have her best showing on Thursday, and then to be able to just chip away, and then just take control after day three and just close it out on day four was just a lot of fun to watch. This was the most golf I've watched in person and on TV for a very long time, and it looks like I chose the right one, the right tournament to watch.
I was thinking the exact same thing yesterday. I was driving home and I was thinking, I don't think I've ever watched more of one single golf tournament than this one. And that includes the Masters, which, I mean, I've had years where I've taken off work for this, but I watched so much of this tournament. Obviously, we spent 8 or 9 hours on site on Thursday following people, and we're going to get to all of that. Buckle in, folks. This is going to be an episode. If you can't tell by the volume level, enthusiasm level, I am buzzing right now. And not just because Nelly won. There was a point where I wasn't even rooting for Nelly, and we'll get into all the things that happened. But we're going to talk about the tournament. We're going to talk about the leaderboard. We're going to talk about what some of the exceptional things that we saw on site. We're going to break down our experience. But let's start at the obvious spot. Nelly Korda wins the U.S. Women's Open. The major that everyone thought was her bugaboo was something that was always in her head. She wasn't going to be able to win. She's coming off a second place last year at Erin Hills, but previously she had blown up at Lancaster and she had a 10 on a hole. This was just the one that people thought Nelly was in her own head too much about. And she might have even said as much in her post-round interview yesterday, but she ends up winning by one on an absolutely frenetic Sunday. There were, 4 or 5 different instances of a 4-way tie at the top of the leaderboard. And we're going to walk you through really, I guess what amounts to be the back nine on Sunday. Let's start here. The day started out with one of the chasing groups doing something that made me start texting Tom what felt like every 16 seconds. Mm-hmm. Charlie Hull came out of the gates firing. And by firing, I mean eagling the first hole of the day, the par 5 first, Tom, that you and I walked a ton on Thursday. She just bombed the drive, put a hybrid about pin high, sunk a bomb of a putt, and all of a sudden she's off to the races, and she did not stop. She almost holed out. She almost had a hole in one on the 6th hole, your favorite donut hole. For those that don't know what that means, there was a bunker in the middle of the green. If you didn't hear us talk about it in our preview pod, she did everything. She almost sunk a bunker shot. She almost holed out for a hole in one. She had an eagle on the first hole. She went, I think, eagle, birdie, par, birdie, par, birdie. It was a gnarly start. So there were fireworks from the jump, and Charlie got her name at the very top of the leaderboard along with Nelly. We saw Inji Chun, we saw Se-Young Kim, we saw Gabby Lopez. We had a Nasa Hataoka sighting at one point. Ronning Yin went the wrong direction, unfortunately, on the back nine. But it was incredibly entertaining. Jennifer Kupcho also kind of took the gas early and didn't really make herself known on the back nine. But those are all the people that were relevant as you were looking at the back nine on Sunday. I'll kind of fast forward to something that Nelly said in her post-round presser that is relevant for all of this. Nelly said she had less than her B game, and she just won the U.S. Women's Open. How frightening is that?
What every competitor wants to hear. Just, so she wasn't even playing that well, and she still stopped us. And also, I don't know, kind of seemed a little arrogant, which I like. You know that about me and the athletes I follow, but. Yeah, that doesn't need to be said, right?
Oh, it absolutely. First off, Nelly's not the arrogant type, which is why she can get away with it. She's incredibly measured about what she says. She is. Yeah. And she said it in the context of not like, why did you win by one? She said it in the context like she was fighting it. She did a grip change after Thursday. She had to change shoes midway Thursday. Like she didn't have it. She was missing every drive right, which we'll get to. You and I saw a lot of her in the right rough on Thursday. She obviously didn't have it. So I think it's one thing for an athlete to say it. If LeBron James scores 45 and says I didn't have it, we'll be like, well, you had something. Nelly shot 7 under across 4 days and barely won. And we saw her miss a ton of fairways. We saw her miss important putts. We saw her make bogeys. So I think she maybe just said something that confirmed and validated what we were witnessing. Remember, this is the woman that boat raced the field at Chevron, right? Like we've seen it. Like if she had her B or A game, look out, rest of the world. And here's why I think why it doesn't bother me. I think every player on that course knew this was their shot to get Nelly, and they didn't get it because they did not get this. This was Nelly's flu game essentially. Like, and she still did it. So she had less than
I was going back and forth. Do I want to root for Nelly? Am I happy that she makes this? Am I rooting for Charlie? I mean, I don't really have much rooting interest for the others that were in there, but since we've come on this podcast, it's pretty much been Nelly, Charlie, and Gino. So I was really rooting for Nelly to get over that hump and for Charlie to get her first major. And my kids were like, "Oh, it's Charlie. Oh, we're rooting for Charlie, right?" And then when Nelly missed a putt, they're like, "Yeah," they're cheering for it. I said, "Well, I kind of want her to sink it too." I guess my ideal outcome would be playoffs and then just go have fun. I don't really care who wins after that, but it was an incredible ending. Just, Nelly didn't have it sealed up until the end, and, she was able to make that long lag putt to give herself a little short. I don't want to say tap in because it wasn't a tap in. I audibly screamed when she had that little around the world putt to cap it off. But yeah, wow. What a showing by her.
Obviously, you're the person I text with the most and think about the most when I'm watching LPGA tournaments. I was specifically thinking about I asked you in the preview pod, what's the ideal thing for the LPGA? Not what we want, just like, what's the best thing for the tour? And you said Nelly beats Gino in a playoff. And I think you only got one piece of that wrong in retrospect. I think it's Nelly beats Charlie in a playoff, given Charlie's personality for the tour, as Gino's a little bit more reserved. We almost got all of that. And need I remind you, the U.S. Women's Open playoff format is a 2-hole aggregate. They play the 10th and the 18th. You remember what that 10th hole is on Sunday? It's a drivable 4 with Nelly, one of the longest hitters in the game, and Charlie, the most aggressive hitter in the game. Man, we were real close to... I don't need anything more from yesterday. It was truly the best Sunday I can remember. But that could have just cemented as one of the best sporting events of all time, not just one of the best golf events of all time.
So if they're tied after those two, do they play those two again, or do they have other?
I believe the way they do a 2-hole aggregate is if they're tied after that, then they just rotate back and forth, sudden death one. So they go 10-18, 10-18 until there's a winner.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, 10 would have been fascinating to watch. A little bit of just down the stretch. I mentioned a lot of people were threatening the lead, were in the lead, fell out of the lead. Inji Chun got this up to a 2-shot lead. She got to 9 under at one point, but then quickly gave it back. But Nelly won the tournament on 17. The par 5, everyone knows par 5 is your last chance for scoring, especially with that tough 18th coming. That putt on 17 is the putt most people miss. She made a long putt to get, again, by long, 9-10 feet, something that when nerves are fluttering, which I'm sure they were, it's an easy one to block ride or to yank. And she middled that ball. I would be remiss if I didn't call out what you're doing on the pod right now. For those of you that are not watching the video of this, Tom just drank out of a Chick-fil-A cup. And if you did not hear, we did toy around with some nicknames for Nelly. Tom said her nickname should be Chick-fil-A because she closes on Sundays.
And so she sure did, Mark.
And not only did she close, but she was Tom's pick to win this week. So you can drink from that cup all you want. I still like the Preacher better. I think there's just more we can do with the Preacher long term that's not going to run into brand issues and copyrights. Because
in a later episode, I definitely want to go through all the potential sponsors that you and I can get for Nelly Korda as the most marketable player on tour. We got to get her everywhere. And if that means a Chick-fil-A commercial with some cows, let's do it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, earmark that for a future agenda. So Nelly birdie 17. Tom mentioned it. She played 18 very safe. She hit a great drive to dead center fairway, very safe iron in the middle of the green. She's got a 2-putt ahead of her to win. Again, there's already a couple people in the clubhouse at 7 under. Charlie Ho and Gabby Lopez, who sunk an amazing putt on 18 for birdie. Did not see that one coming. So Nelly's got to make a par to win outright. Otherwise, she's going to be in a 3-person playoff along with Charlie and Gabby. And what did you say, Tom? 2 feet, 10 inches? Is that, we were, she was just inside 3 feet, not quite a tap in. Oh man, Nelly straight yanked the ball, yet somehow hit it soft enough that it took the break and she lifted it in on the high side and that thing touched 356 degrees of that cup. It was that's always a power lip out anywhere else. I still don't know how that ball went down. It looked like it was supposed to lip out. And, man, that's a different storyline, isn't it?
What happens if she misses that? I mean, that's the playoff that we're looking for, kind of. Not exactly like that, but man, oh man, that would really put a damper on this thing if she were
for sure
to lip out and then somehow lose. Man,
yeah, stories are interesting, aren't they? Like, it just could be written so many different ways, especially with Charlie and Gabby having kind of heat-seeking missiled their way to the top of the leaderboard. So they've got momentum riding into 18. You and I were texting, like, Charlie signing autographs. I mean, she's just trying to stay warm because there's not enough time to, like, go to the clubhouse and sign and then go out and chip or putt when you just got to turn around again. Like,
oh, I love that. I thought that was awesome because you will see occasionally, like on a PGA broadcast, they'll go and, if somebody finishes early, maybe a few holes ahead of the final group, and they are in contention, they will be at the range and just kind of monitoring what's going on, or they will go to the putting green just to kind of keep warm. But the first thing she did, or at least on camera, was that she just out there signing autographs. I think that's so cool.
Charlie is the best. I mean, talk about a broken record. The people's champion, for sure.
Yes.
It was an amazing tournament. We're going to talk a ton more about this, but just for some clarity on what everyone did today. So Nelly's strokes gained total was over 4 shots around for the tournament. That means she's 4 shots better than the average player each day across a 4-round tournament, which means she's 16 shots better than average. Like, that's wild stuff right there. Charlie, let's zoom in on Charlie. We're going to talk more about Nelly, don't worry, but Charlie is the most crazy, wild roller coaster ride. She has amazing highs. Then she doesn't have low lows. She just kind of has like dumbfounding bogeys that you didn't see happen. And all of a sudden she lost a couple strokes and then but they weren't like flashy bogey. Like, she didn't like flame out. She just she just didn't make that putt, or, she just kind of missed a fairway and the chip wasn't tight enough. I'm like, where did Charlie, once again, a bridesmaid? This is becoming a thing. She has still not won a major. She was in a tough position to win going into Sunday. She had to do a lot. She was the best golfer on the weekend by at least 2 strokes, I think, because she shot the round of the day on Saturday as well. She was 3rd in greens in regulation for the tournament. Like, she was hunting pins, and she was definitely putting herself in a lot of position to sink putts. Let's talk about a couple of the other people and kind of where their days went. Se-Young Kim. I'm starting to become a big Se-Young Kim fan. At one point, Julie, my wife, asked me yesterday, like, are you rooting for Se-Young Kim? And like 10 minutes later, she's like, are you rooting for In-Ji Chun? Like, she had no idea who I was rooting for. And I was like, this feels like when I don't have a team in the World Series and I'm just rooting for extra innings in Game 7. Like, I wasn't going to be disappointed, because even if Nelly lost, while I was going to be not the best for the LPGA, like, it's going to be a credible storyline, and someone would have had to do something amazing, right, to overtake her. But Se-Young didn't hit. I swear she hit 1 fairway all day yesterday. Like, I'm sure it was probably more like 5, but she was playing from the rough all day, and yet she was 2.5 strokes better than everyone on strokes gained approach. She was somehow getting herself off the rough. That was a half shot better than everyone except Maya Stark. Like, she was so much better than everybody else into those greens, which were getting spicy and hard by the end. In-Ji Chun, let me just pause here. We're going to talk a ton about Nelly. I said this to you maybe on Friday or Saturday. I'm obsessed with In-Ji Chun's golf swing. So In-Ji has rebuilt her golf swing. This is not the golf swing that got her 3 majors. For those of you who don't know, In-Ji Chun is a 3-time major winner. This would have been her 4th different major and would have opened up that whole debate about whether she's a Grand Slam champion because she won 4 of the 5 women's majors. But In-Ji has done a lot of work to get back to where she was. But she had 2 fascinating things that I could not stop watching. One was just the golf swing. It was so pure. And I don't know how she's not winning every major with that swing until you realize that Nelly's is even more pure. But her short game was the greasiest, dirtiest, nastiest, most complete thing I have seen it reminds me of Cam Smith on the PGA Tour. She got up. She had a chip on Saturday where her hands were on the steel of the shaft because she was 1 foot in a bunker. The other was a complete upslope, and she put it within like 4 feet, like something she shouldn't have been within 15 feet. She had to chip across the green on 6 because she hit it on the wrong side of the donut. She clipped it perfect, didn't even hit a blade of grass and put it within 3 feet. She had at least 4 or 5 up and downs that I thought each individually were the best up and down I ever saw until she went to the next hole and did it again. All that to say, In-Ji was never putting. She was the opposite of Se Young Kim. She could not find a green. That's really hard to win a U.S. Women's Open if you're relying on your short game that much. In some extreme conditions around those greens, but she was fascinating to watch. I'm really curious what she does the rest of the way.
She was somebody I'd never heard of before. I mean, I'm sure you've mentioned her in passing here or there. And when I was texting with you, you're like, yeah, she's won 3 majors. And, my ignorance, I had never heard of her. So she was obviously crushing it on Sunday. So good on her. But yeah, that was a kind of fun to see. And you texted me, I think, on Saturday, and you're like, I'm obsessed with this swing. And I said, well, I got to go check out this lady's swing.
It's unreal. It's smooth. It's slow. It's got all the power it needs. So, and we mentioned Gabby Lopez birdieing 18. Gabby, you and I followed a decent amount on Thursday. Really up and down. She might have got it to maybe 6 under that day, Tom, at some point, but she fell back. Like Gabby just start, stop, had all sorts of weird things happen in her round, but she is feisty as all get out, man. Like I would not want to be in a cage match with her. I feel like she's just going to beat anybody up.
Shout out to her. I heard one of her post round interviews, and she was saying that she went to the clubhouse, and all the kitchen staff and the servers and everyone working at the club is Mexican, and she's saying, I'm trying for them. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm rooting for Gabby Lopez now because that'd be pretty fun too.
Yeah, she is very much a good personality for that tour. Okay, so those were a lot of our players. Some notable finishes here that we're going to need to get into. So first off, a lot of amateurs made the cut. It was very impressive to watch the Kiara Romero's and Asterisk Tallies and Aphrodite Dang, some of which we got to see in person on Thursday. But Kiara Romero ends up with getting low am, tied for 6th. As a reminder, top 10 in this tournament get automatic qualification to next year's U.S. Women's Open. There were 2 amateurs in the top 10. Kiara Romero finished at 3 under, and Maria Jose Marin, the winner of the ANWA, also finished tied for 8th. So they're both on their way they've already qualified for next year's U.S. Women's Open. Kiara Romero, this is one of my favorite stat lines I've seen in a long time. So when you measure strokes gained, there's strokes gained off the tee. There's strokes gained approach, which is, again, like as you're coming in from the fairway or the rough. Strokes gained around a green, which is mainly sand saves, chipping, that kind of thing. And there's strokes gained putting. Kiara Romero was dead last, and I mean dead last for the week in strokes gained around the greens. In other words, she could not chip, could not sand save. But she bounced it by being number 1 for the week in putting. So while she couldn't chip it anywhere close, again, those around the green numbers are meant to measure like what's the expected outcome? How close did you put it to the hole? If you have a chip from 30 feet, you're expected to put it within 3 feet. She was probably leaving herself 10-foot putt, so she just was not hitting her chips well. But she jarred everything. She made every putt. So that's a nice counterbalance. If you're not chipping the ball well, who cares? Just get it on the green and you're going to sink it. I haven't seen someone just be absolute dead last and first to those extremes.
And those greens were nasty as hell.
And they got even faster, man. I thought they were fast the day we were there, but shout out to the superintendent and the squad at Riviera. Like they did everything we dreamed they would and more. Maria Jose Marin, what was interesting about her, she only averaged 250 or 245 yards off the tee. Like she was bottom quarter of people. But she finished tied for 8th. She just didn't make big mistakes. And that was one thing I noticed. I didn't see a lot of blow ups. I can't think of a lot of double, triple, and quadruple bogeys happening the way we've seen in some of these other Carnage events. But I think I heard someone say, like, it is not hard to par, but it is very easy to bogey. And I think that was a very good description. People weren't talking about big numbers the way they were at Lancaster and Erin Hills. And then finally, the last amateur I want to shout out, Aphrodite Dang. We got to see her a little bit. I think we saw her finish up on Thursday. She was tied for the tournament lead with number of birdies. She and Charlie Hull had more birdies than anybody else. She balanced it with obviously a few more bogeys than some of the leaders, but really impressive finishes for those amateurs. Gino, again, now we're just kind of going down the leaderboard. First off, let's just read the top 10 into the record here. Obviously, Nelly at first, tied for second, Charlie Hull, Gabby Lopez. Fourth by herself, Inji Chun. Fifth place, Se Young Kim. Tied for sixth, tie between Kiara Romero and Nasa Hataoka. A group of people at T8, including Padri Ananarukarn, came from nowhere. She shoots a 67 on Sunday. I didn't think there was a 67 out there on Sunday, but she and Charlie shot it. Tied with her, Allison Corpuz. Spoiler alert, we've got an interview coming out with Allison in the next few weeks. Defending champion of the U.S. Women's Open, Maya Stark finished T8. Aforementioned Maria Jose Marin, Roning Yin, Jennifer Kupcho all finished T8. That rounds out your top 10. Really good leaderboard there. Not listed in there, the Hannah Greens and Ginos of the world. Hannah was dead last in fairways hit of the people who made the cut. Really tough to compete in U.S. Women's Open unless you're Se Young Kim. Apparently, she was not in the fairway very much, and she couldn't get her putter going, which is why she won so much the 4 times to start the year. Putter just didn't get hot. And then Gino, right? Like, I don't know if you want to go anywhere particular, but what are your takeaways from Gino, who finishes T28 +3 for the weekend and a 72-73 on the weekend?
I have to keep reminding myself that, yes, she is very young and she's got plenty of golf ahead of her, and she's probably still trying to figure out what it is about the majors that she just can't seem to grasp. I was already looking ahead to the major in a couple weeks, and I go, like, do I want to pick Gino? And I go, I guess probably not, just because she kind of needs to prove it first. I feel bad for her, but maybe some of this pressure off of her might be good for her. I mean, probably the worst thing that could have happened to her would be Charlie winning, and then like now everyone goes, Gino, you are undoubtedly the best player without a major. So she's off the hook for a couple more weeks, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. We watched her a little bit. Nothing about her game seemed that good. We kept checking back. She was paired with Charlie, and we would look back and go, wait, 3 over? Like she's only played 6 holes or something like that. And then we just kind of, I kind of discounted her and didn't think that she was going to do much for the rest of the tournament. But yeah, no, it's a bummer for her. I kind of had high hopes. I wanted to watch her kind of shoot low, but didn't seem to work out.
Well, you mentioned your major picks and looking ahead. I think we may have to resign ourselves to the first major Gino wins, which, let's be clear, Gino will win a major. Mm-hmm. I don't think you and I are going to be on that block when it happens. I think, to your point, we're going to have too much scar tissue to pick her, and then we're going to be like, okay, monkey's off the back. Now we're running downhill. Let's see what happens. Look, there's a world in which I picked Gino in a future major. There was no way it was going to be the U.S. Women's Open. This is the hardest test of the 5 majors. This is not the place that Gino was going to make her major debut, I don't think, although it has happened in recent history with Allison Corpuz's of the world. So some notable miscuts. We talked about all the people that made the cut. Hyoju Kim, Lydia Ko, Angel Yin, Austin Kim, your girl Chizzy. Just a note, Lydia just fell out of the Rolex top 10 for the first time since 2020, since she won the AIG Women's Open. I forgot that she was outside the top 10 right before she won that. But we got to see a little bit of Hyoju on Thursday. This was a big ballpark for her, I think. I think this was, she does not hit the ball that far, and she wasn't extremely straight. I don't think Hyoju had much. She didn't seem to have it in the tank when we saw her on Thursday.
There were a few times where we would see her drive, and then we would walk up to her approach shot, and she was I don't know, 15, 20 yards behind her partners. Or just,
Yeah.
and you pointed that out and you said, wait, why isn't she's not driving it nearly as far as everyone else? And
No, yeah,
kind of
she
hard.
doesn't drive it super straight or she's not just didn't have it this week. And then a notable miscut, not because they missed it, but just because it was impressive they were even playing. Madeline Sagstrom, Fringe Coverage alum. Madeline played 7 months pregnant. Again, she and her husband are expecting their first here in a couple months, and she had qualified for the U.S. Open and said, you know what, I mean, it's going to be different, but I'm going to do it. I have to learn how to swing around my belly. And you and I got out there and followed her, saw her I don't know if this is something you want to talk about later, but she had one of the most amazing up and downs that we saw while we were there.
Yeah.
On 16, she had short-sided herself on the right side of 16 in the rough where there was just maybe 4 paces onto the green was that pin. It's just dead. And she just took her medicine and hit it long to 20 feet past the hole and then sank the putt coming back. Like no one should be getting up and down from the jail that she had put herself in off the tee. But leave it to Madeline to find a fun way to get the crowd going, even on a week where she didn't have it. And maybe a made cut was a pretty tall task for someone 7 months pregnant and whole body is changing by the minute. So
that was a really cool story leading into it, because I think that really gained a lot of traction, and stuff like that is really cool for the tour. I think having somebody who is obviously going to be struggling a little bit more because she's, creating life and she's 7 months pregnant, just being able to walk a course. I mean, I was pretty sore after that day of walking. I wasn't playing golf, and it might look it, but I'm definitely not pregnant. It's a tough task, I would imagine. And, good on her for even going out and trying.
Yeah. And talk about just
a decent round. I mean, she did a good job too.
I mean, core memory, right? Like she's going to get to show pictures of hey, you were you should tell her kid, you were in my belly while I was playing at the highest level. And I was there when Nelly, that's going to be an interesting footnote. She was there the year that Nelly won the U.S. Women's Open, playing pregnant. Well, we said it at the outset. You picked Nelly. You and I are now 2 for 2 in picking Nelly to win a major and then having her win it. And we've now burned our Nelly takes for the year. How are you feeling right now about that, about choosing to fire that bullet now?
Obviously, I think it was a very good pick. Had you asked me Thursday night, I was very unhappy with that choice Thursday night. But, I mean, like I said on last week's episode, I kind of felt like I had to pick her just because she had won the Chevron. She already has the most wins on tour this season, and she's just kind of clicking. Everything seems to be working for her, so good on her. It wasn't particularly brave of me to pick the number 1 player in the world to win the U.S. Open, but hey, it worked out. I'm glad I did, and I'm going to be upset that I can't pick her again. But you know what? She's Tom's Titan, so she's always in my heart.
And I think this is when the season starts now. We both got our Nelly fix. We both got our points from her. Now we're not allowed to pick her. Now we're going to see I'll be curious when each major preview comes around, we do our picks, if either one of us does the verbal caveat of okay, for the record's sake, I do think Nelly's going to win. Because I don't think I would have picked Nelly for all 5 moving forward. I don't think Nelly may be the favorite for the rest of the way in all 3 majors, regardless of if she wins anymore. There's no way she would be my pick for all of them, but I do think for at least one of them, she might be, especially maybe the KPMG, the next one. I'd be curious. You're telling me
if she wins the first 4, you wouldn't think she's going to win the 5th?
No, because I think that's the hardest. The AIG Women's Open, I think, is the one that doesn't fit her game because Link's style is not something that she plays on.
That's that knowledge you have that I just don't have. So, okay.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. I just gave you a little tip for later on, but luckily you've already fired your Nelly bullet. But yeah, so I had Ronning Yin. I was feeling so good about this pick, man. I was feeling good after Thursday. I was feeling good after Friday. I was feeling good after Saturday. I was feeling good after 9 holes on Sunday. And then she just finds the wrong time to go bogey, double, bogey. And just 4 shots in 3 holes, she's gone off the front page of the leaderboard. Again, another good showing for her overall. And maybe in a week where you don't choose Nelly might be something that I might be celebrating my pick, but she crumbled in some important moments. I was very bummed about that. I think she's back because I think in her last 3 starts, she'd been second, fourth, second or something like that. So continuing on her good play, she finishes another top 10 in a major. someone to look at. I mean, I can't fire that bullet anymore, but you've got running in your, as people you can pick moving forward. As someone who just rode that ride as a pick, she was worth it for sure. So, all right, well, what did you think of Riviera? You know, we're going to get into all of your takes and everything, but how did that course show out for you versus whatever expectation you had?
So I didn't do much research on Riviera going into it because I kind of wanted to be surprised. I did look up the initiation fee and monthly dues of Riviera because I knew that it was going to be like a hoity-toity country club in the Pacific Palisades. Any guess, Mark, on an initiation fee to join Riviera?
$300,000.
That is correct. All right, Smarty Pants.
You said it was outrageous, so I just tripled what I thought an initiation fee might be.
Give me monthly dues.
$15,000.
$3,500. No, it's pretty reasonable. Some famous members: Larry David, Tom Brady, Mark Wahlberg, Adam Sandler, Hugh Grant. I was expecting to see a little bit more celebrity faces in the crowd, but hey, all good. Now, the course itself was immaculate. You know, you walk around and we can talk about the setup a little bit later. I'm not even talking about the course setup. I just think that the grounds themselves, they did a very good job. There's trash cans everywhere. There's patrons everywhere. There's people to help you, navigate if you need to go from one hole to the other. There's volunteers all over the place. It was a production, and they did a fantastic job with it. And even when I got to watch some of it on TV over the weekend, it shows out really good too. I don't know, maybe just like they have a lot of overhead shots, a lot of drones, cameras everywhere. It looked like a very, very pretty course.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine that the USGA wants to get back there ASAP.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, I was talking to my wife yesterday, and I just said it's very rare that you build something up for, as in this case, the year that we built this up, of the thing we were going to go to, the tournament that we were most excited about, the course as a fit for the major. It's very rare that you get the payoff in the fashion that we just did, right? Like, you can still be excited about a tournament, have it be a good ending, but every component of this was so perfect. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the leaderboard and Nelly is the most marketable player winning, but it was on one of the most famed courses in the world, which played the way it was supposed to. 7 under par, 8 under par. I almost guessed the number. I had said 7 under would win. I forgot Nelly birdied 17 to get it to 8. But it was a tough test. And then on top of that, the USGA does such a good job with the pomp and circumstance around it, the blue, red, and white flags, the TV production it does, obviously elevated to some degree. I've got some bones to pick there, but we'll get there. But it felt elevated. It was elevated. And then the players did their part to make it the most memorable sporting event in the LPGA in recent history. I hope that the leadership of the LPGA specifically, because look, the USGA sets this up, right? But it said the LPGA's job to now ride this momentum with their membership and what they did and found who those marketable stars are, some of which they already knew, like the Nellys and Charlies of the world. They better do something with this, because 2 years ago, Nelly Korda won 7 times and the world didn't know about it. Mm-hmm. And it was a different time, and the LPGA has a lot of different leadership and a lot more things in place than 2 years ago. I hope they are ready for their moment, because I'm not sure a moment like this comes up again. They've got Nelly Korda's now won the first 2 majors of the year. Winning 5 in a year is an outlandish expectation, but at least there can be a fun conversation around the fact that it's still alive 2 majors in. And your stars are showing out week in, week out. Like, man, I hope they have a plan for all of this. It's tough that we go to a team event next week at the Dow where she's playing with Olivia Cowan. Like, there's a bunch of weirdness that happens with the LPGA schedule, but this can't just be 1 week blip where they kind of scratch the surface of the general sports ecosystem news and then just go back to their little LPGA nook where us and our followers are paying attention to no one else.
I was hoping that, on Instagram today, we would see Nelly at Disneyland with the trophy. Right up, it's right down the road, something like that. I want to see her on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon holding the trophy, just celebrating, doing stuff like that. Yeah. Hell, courtside at Madison Square Garden tonight. Yeah. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how the logistics to make all this stuff happen. I'm sure it's way harder than I'm thinking, minus the Disneyland thing. That's a pretty easy thing, I would imagine. But that's what we should be looking for. Now, I think that the LPGA is in a unique situation because, like, let's say if a lesser known player would have won all this, maybe they're not scheduling a Tonight Show appearance for her. But if it is your number one American, face of the league, yeah, you should really try to do all this and to get this stuff to happen.
Well, and this is where power dynamics come into play, right? Because I would hope that the LPGA is always, regardless of winner, trying to get those appearances, whether those outlets are saying yes.
Sure.
Fallon's a lot more likely to say yes if it's Nelly than it is running Yin, right? And that's that sounds like Ronnie just caught a stray there, but like it's just a matter of the American marketability of all of that. But you saw there were some tweets going back and forth that Nelly was getting congratulations from LeBron James and Tiger Woods. Like that's great, but that's a lot of private stuff. I do hope that they roll her out. I think it's going to be an exhausting week for Nelly. Yeah. There's going to be some media expectations of where she goes and what she does with this time. And again, she's well deserving of it, and I'm sure she's more than happy to oblige, given that she's walking home with the trophy. But one of the things I mentioned, the USGA brings some gravitas to this event. Man, was it nice to have full stats. You and I have bemoaned this since early on of a lack of stats. And I can remember when Big Randy was on, we were talking about, maybe it was Nelly at the time. He's like, let me ask you something. Like, why is it that you like Nelly? And I was like, well, she hits it a long way. He's like, how do you know that? And he asked such good questions. And I haven't stopped thinking about it since he said it is, well, like anecdotally, we know she does, but caddies measure most of their stuff. But the USGA this week has ShotLink, and there was so much data. Think about all the stuff I just finished rattling off about strokes gained and approach. We don't have that week to week available to us. We had it in real time throughout the tournament. It was awesome. And quite honestly, I'm sad that I felt it was awesome. This is baseline level what the PGA has every week. The LPGA needs to have investment from outside partners to be able to have ShotLink, because it is a very expensive set of technology to have out there, to have all of the towers and cables and technology across 18 holes to do that, instead of having your caddy self-reporting what club you hit and how far you hit it and what your lie was. ShotLink is there to do all of that. But I now know that amazing stat about Kiara Romero, right? That she was last in strokes gained around the green, but she was amazing in putting. That was because of what USGA brought to this. They only know how to do championships one way, and it's first class. It now is probably the right, like we had Mike Wan on from the USGA, I don't know, a couple weeks ago now. And he teed this up exactly the way it was. Like they gave them the stage, and the whole thing was whether or not the women could play and deliver. And they did exactly that. Mike put them in the absolute best light. His core staff did an amazing job setting up the course. You and I laughed a ton just on Thursday how hard some of those pins were. It was a real challenge. And just shout out to the USGA specifically on the stats front. It was so fun for me to gain knowledge about the players that I thought maybe I knew something about. And sometimes I was right and sometimes I was wrong, but I had facts to back it for once.
So this isn't a majors thing. This is only the U.S. Open where they have all this ShotLink data?
So USGA is the one that provided it for this tournament. Whether or not there will be at the KPMG, the Evian, or anything else would be upon the tournament organizers and the LPGA. Obviously, what you and I have seen is the broadcast enhancements from FM and TrackMan have been more about like having more drones and more cameras, things of that nature. It was not a direct investment in ShotLink. There may be some more top tracer type technologies for the viewing experience, but it was the USGA's responsibility and their choice, because they do it at all of their championships, to bring in that level of statistical support.
Got it. Okay.
TV coverage. I really just don't want to sour this episode, so I'm going to keep this very short. I was just bummed that it was on Peacock. Like they didn't go like, I think they went live to air at 2:00 from 2 to 5. By the time you got to that final round coverage on NBC, you had no idea that Charlie had eagled, and like you jumped on right when coverage started at 12:30 and you got to see all of the amazing things that were happening. But for those people that didn't have access to that, it's just such a bummer, because there was a men's tournament going on, the Memorial, and that superseded it on Golf Channel, and then CBS picked up the men's tournament and NBC picked up the women's. But I don't have a fix here. There's a limited number of people that want to watch golf. You can't have two competing golf tournaments at the same time. I get it. It just sucks that the men are always going to win out. On the USGA, US Women's Open week, how can we not reverse this trend for a week? It's just tough. But again, I'm upset because it was awesome. Man, that tournament was awesome.
I was at a hotel over the weekend and I had a little bit of downtime and I tried to turn it on TV and I couldn't find it. So I feel your pain.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing on before we, actually a couple of things. One, the crowds. We were there on a Thursday. I don't tell them before I talk about the crowds at all. Does this spoil anything in your on-course experience? Okay. The crowds were underwhelming. And we kind of had that as our reaction, but we'd not been to a US Women's Open on a Thursday. But we thought, hey, there was some bad PR around the men's event that was at LACC a couple years ago. And we were worried about that. You and I talked about it on the drive up, actually. Talked to a couple of our friends while we were there, asking what they thought, and they said, they wanted to know if they were on or off the record. And they're like, yeah, it's not great. It's not great. And they didn't necessarily cite reasons for it. But the crowds were bigger than a normal LPGA event, but not big enough for what it deserved. And they did get bigger on the weekends. You could just tell by watching there were more people on those grounds than what you and I saw on Thursday. But Saturday and Sunday, it was not. I saw tee boxes where there wasn't even a full row of people standing around some of the biggest names. They didn't even fill the hill on 18 of that amphitheater when Nelly sinks that putt. Like there were people on it, but about halfway up. That is usually just a sea of polo shirts, right? Of people sitting there. So I was a little bit bummed about that. But here's my spin. I hope yesterday is what changes that. You can only ask so much in terms of people showing up to a sport that they know nothing about. If, as we just said, there's not great TV coverage, how would they know to go, right? If week in or week out, they're at best on Golf Channel, maybe a 1 or 2 hour broadcast. This is the inflection point. This is where your biggest stars are there, the Charlie Holes of the world, the Nelly Kordas, even the Kiara Romeros, right? The young bucks who are bringing a different style of play to the LPGA. Let this be the moment where we look back and say, can you read? I hope my daughter can't fathom the idea that there were times that there were poorly attended US Women's Open. And I don't mean that just to be like, of course, that sounds like a nice flowery thing for me to say, and maybe it is, but this feels like the moment to build off of and say, never again do we have an empty tee box at a US Women's Open on a weekend down the stretch on the back nine. Never again do we have to fight for whether or not we're on broadcast TV on our final round Sunday or whether there's a non-major event on the men's side that gets to beat us out every time. Let the Nelly Korda winning 2 of 2 majors and getting a boatload of attention for the sport. We're going to talk briefly in a second about a company that we met that was investing a lot in women's sports. For the corporate America, take note, this is a sport worth investing in, and make sure that what happened from a crowd perspective doesn't happen again, because they deserved so much more fanfare out there. And I'm sure probably from a viewership as well.
There were times where, we would watch a golfer hit an incredible drive, and I almost kind of like held off. I'm thinking, shouldn't I be clapping? I'm pretty sure that when I go to the men's tournaments, people clap as soon as contact is made, and they go, "Is that not what I should be doing?" Or someone, you would see occasionally when somebody sinks a putt, people would cheer and kind of give them their flowers, something like that. But it was pretty evident that there were a lack of fans there. One thing that I was thinking of this morning that I think would be a very cool thing to do, it probably has to do with the money or something, but if the USGA would somehow be able to give out tickets to high school golf teams or college golf teams or just like any kind of like the USGA, the youth in golf programs that they have, just get some kids there, get some younger fans there. Tickets were, I think they ended up costing us $49 each. Like, it's not like they're expensive. We're not looking for a suite for these kids. Just let them go walk around, because even if these are junior fans, just get fans out there. They're going to be the loud ones. They're going to be the ones having a great time, regardless of what actually happens on the course. Whoever it is, just get more people out there. Now, LA fans are kind of notorious for not being great fans in golf or other sports. I mean, personally, I hate all Dodgers fans, but I go to plenty of Lakers games and Clippers games where fans don't show up till midway through the first, because first off, traffic in LA is horrendous, and I think it's just kind of been part of the culture where you can kind of show up whenever you want and mosey on down, and maybe people showed up around the weekends, and obviously people work on Thursdays and Fridays. It's a little bit tougher for them to do, but I was kind of hoping that there would be more people there. It was weird because I was kind of pleased with the amount of people, but also displeased with the amount of people. I wasn't really sure what to expect. Yeah. Like you said, it was way more people than I saw at the Vegas
Creek,
tournament that I went to, but not nearly as many as I've seen at like the U.S. Open at Torrey.
And this is that weird chicken and egg thing, right? Like, one of the things I was thinking about, because it was a very real thing when someone hit a good shot, and you and I were like, why is no one, like, I got a little heated at one point. I was like, why is it, at one point I was questioning my eyesight from the tee boxes. I was like, the ball must have ran out and made its way to the rough, because that looked like it was bombed or found a green, or, how in baseball there's certain fan bases that are lauded as like being super smart fans, or they just know ball, and pick your sport. I would say the general PGA crowd is very golf smart. It's not just an event to be at. There is a large chunk of people. I won't say majority, because there's just so many people at a PGA event. There are a lot of people that know golf, and they know how to track a ball off the tee, and they know what's good and what's not, and they can respect a good shot when it happens. This is a slippery slope take that I'm going to probably stumble my way through. I'm not sure there is an incredibly large golf smart component of an LPGA audience week to week. And here's why. I think there are coaches and parents and relatives and official team members that are traveling. And outside of that, what you suggest is actually one of the few things the LPGA is doing, which is giving a lot of that free access to young junior golfers. But think about how small of a niche you've already carved out. Golf teams have like 9 people on them. And there's only so many school districts that even have golf teams, because it's an affluent sport. And think about all the obstacles you've already created. Golf's problem is not trying to get more golfers interested in golf. Golf's problem is trying to get people outside of golf interested in golf. And that's why in the world, if you told me today, hey man, there's this new sport called whatever, and they're giving away free tickets, and it's a women's version of the sport, do you want to go? I got some questions before I'm just going to pull the trigger and go. So like there almost has to be some like front end education about either the sport or the people. And this is where it kind of turns into a live golf discussion, right? Of like, well, they try to do the concert route, make it more of an event and bring people in. Like they ain't there for the golf, man. And I don't think that's what the women's golf scene is looking for. I think there's an element of that, of making sure it's an entertaining product, that it's not boring while they're there. But if the people that are on site aren't cheering and clapping, if I'm brand new to the sport and I show up and I don't hear any clapping, I'm not about to clap, because I'm going to follow the crowd. So there's something about that like, I don't want to rip on LPGA crowds, because I think there's incredibly smart people there. There's also a mix of like, men's golf fans can be more gregarious and drunk and yell stupid stuff like mashed potatoes, and which you don't hear. I mean, how great was it not to hear that BS?
I didn't see one drunk person there.
Right. It's just a different crowd. And it's not to say there weren't people there, because there were, but it is a different crowd, and the need to figure out how to make sure that the people on site there realize they're part of the experience, but not make themselves the show like the way the men's crowd does. Right. It's just something, it's very odd. It's very odd to have good play happen and not have it be applauded. Yeah. So, okay, let's put a bow on this before we get to kind of your top takeaways from our experience. So, Tom, Hall of Fame, we're going to have to talk about this. You hinted at this and I wasn't ready to talk about it. I think you had your finger to the pulse of this early on. Where are we on the Nelly Hall of Fame tracker?
Nelly is now 2 points shy of the Hall of Fame.
Jeez.
She has 25. You need 27.
So this major just got her 2 more?
2 more. So if she wins the Rolex Player of the Year, she would get a point.
Which, I mean, how does she not win it, right? Like, again, for those of you that don't know, it's very obvious. It's the Player of the Year. It's based off of it's based off of a points thing that you get throughout the course of the year. She already won 2 majors. Like someone's gonna have to do something outrageous, like win the next 3 majors to unseat her.
If she wins the VAR trophy, which is lowest scoring average, she would also get a point. So my question to you, Mark, because last week I posed, will she be a Hall of Famer by the end of this month? My new question to you, if she didn't play golf for the rest of the year, would she be a Hall of Famer? Because I think she might be.
So, anecdotally, my answer is yes. Technically, I don't think she could because there may be something about minimum number of starts. I don't know those rules.
You mean to get the Rolex Player of the Year and the
for
VAR trophy?
Eligibility? She may have the most points of anybody, but is there an expectation that every player plays a minimum of 15 turns? I'm making that part up. I don't know that.
Okay.
Like minimum number at bats to be eligible for the batting crown. That's just me wondering. I don't know that to be true. But yeah, in terms of points, no, I don't think anyone will pass her. She had 159 going into this. She had like an 80-point lead on Hyoju, who had already won twice. She basically doubled her up. And in the VAR trophy, she's over a stroke better than Hyoju, who's our nearest chaser. I mean, Nelly's scoring average for the year is 68.26. She's literally almost averaging 4 under par every round. Her scoring, let me just put that in perspective. Her scoring average last year in 2025, where she finished second in scoring average for the year, was 1.3 shots worse than it is currently this year. And that year where she won 7 times in 2024, that year she's 1.5 shots worse than she is right now. Like she is absolutely on a different level than even she thought she could reach. And
that's the thing that we talked about at the beginning of the season and even before the season, that Nelly had an incredible 2024.
Yep.
She improved her game in 2025, but then in all of these weekly anomalies, so did everybody else.
Yeah.
But she was still one of the best players in the world, and now she's like, oh yeah, don't forget about me. I am still the best, start to finish.
It's that Chick-fil-A preacher mentality.
Exactly.
Right? It's what's changing is she's closing. All right, well, we've teased it long enough. It was an amazing tournament, but we said it. We were so excited to go. Tom, set the scene for everybody. First off, kind of, I tasked you with talking about what were your highlights. I don't even know where you're going to go with this, but maybe before you do, maybe set the tone for how we approached the day.
So my day started very early. I was up at 4:15. I couldn't sleep. It's like when you have an early morning tea time. It's like, Christmas morning. You just want to get your day started, right? So I drove up. You and I met up. Dare I say, one of the best parts of this day was just the drive with you, because you and I, we talk a lot, face to face on this camera, but we got to talk about all these other things and, learn things about each other. And that part was very enjoyable to me. So just, shout out to you, Mark. I wanted to, again, I had never been to this course and I didn't know much about it. So I kind of wanted to take it all in person. I thought that it was, the layout was beautiful, and I was trying to look around and say, oh, you always say that I have like this really weird mind, and I notice all these things that I think maybe most people don't, and you kind of wanted to see what I would take away from this, and not, I don't necessarily remember if you were to say, hey, Tom, I'm going to go get a drink. Why don't you go meet me at the 7th hole? I might not necessarily know how to get to the 7th hole without a map or somebody telling me where to go, but I did cobble together a list of 10 things that I really enjoyed about this.
All right. Number 1. Are these in any order, or is this in any order?
Yeah, we're going 10-1, baby. Come on.
Okay.
Number 10, all the microphones and the greens inside the bunker, around the greens and in the bunker. Mm-hmm. I guess I've never noticed. Is that a normal thing that they put microphones in bunkers?
They do it time to time. USGA always does it.
Oh, I like that a lot. There was a clip yesterday, and I think it was, who is it? Was it Ronnie Yin when she was coming into the 18th hole, where you could literally hear what her and her caddy were talking about? Fantastic. I mean, I'm sure some players won't necessarily want to be mic'd up like on their lapel or anything like that during a round, but that's the kind of stuff I would love to hear. Even like those Sunday Night Baseball things where you get to ask Juan Soto, what his favorite eat is at the park, stupid stuff like that. I think that's a lot of fun. I don't necessarily think that a player who's about to take a shot is willing to talk about that, but if you're on the fairway waiting for somebody to putt and you have 3-5 minutes to kill, Sure. Why not?
Caddy convos are the best, and that's what they've been trying. They've been trying to do the walk and talks, and they've been trying to do getting caddies or players to mic up for the round and just giving them editing rights afterwards in case like we're not going to flame you, we're not going to air out when you cuss out your caddy or something. But they are working towards trying to enhance that. I know that much.
Yeah, I mean, having Bones on the mic walking around the greens, just his knowledge is just so vast. It's astounding listening to how he dissects the course at every shot, and that's the kind of insight that why not? Let's get it if we can. I think that's very helpful. Number 9, I loved watching the tee shots from the first tee. I thought it was a really cool setup where you could stand literally right behind these players, and you are 10 feet from them while they tee off, and you just watch the ball just completely disappear into the clouds. It was an awesome looking hole. Again, I wasn't familiar with it. I thought that was one of the highlights when we decided to go walk up and watch a few groups from over there. Number 8, that drone that flew into the driving range netting was pretty awesome.
Very weird.
I don't know how they got that down. I mean, that drone's probably worth a few $1,000s, and they probably want to retrieve that at some point. I wish I had seen footage of it actually crashing into it. I want footage from the ground of it crashing, and I also want the drone footage of itself crashing into the net.
Yep.
Number 7, and even though it is number 7, it's probably my favorite thing on the list, the reasonably priced hats. This hat cost like $34.
Yeah.
And I was at Lids the day before, and they had new City Connect Padres hats for $52. Yeah. And, this is very much a captive audience where they could charge $15 for a chicken Caesar wrap about this big, which was a bit underwhelming. But then I can get a hat for twice as much, and this thing's going to last me forever. So good on them for their merch department.
Yeah, you look great.
Hey, thanks. You too, bud. For the record, I picked this out before you picked out yours.
Yep.
Number 6, I liked watching the caddies and players deliberate the strategy on the 10T. So we could get very close to that, and you and I would look at it and go, what would you do in this situation? And for the most part on Thursday, a lot of players were pulling 3-wood and just kind of making sure that they weren't going to go near any of the bunkers and just play it kind of safe. We did see on the broadcast on Sunday for sure that some of them were definitely able to pull driver, and that is fun to watch.
For sure.
Good job on the setup on the 10T. Number 5, the child autograph sections. I guess I didn't really think much about it. I thought that was, dare I say, adorable. I think that's such a cool thing to do, to have these little kids who they look up to these golfers. You can come up and just wait there, and these golfers know where these sections are and go, hey, if I have a few free minutes, let me go help grow the game, and let me go introduce myself to some of these players.
Yeah.
We rode on a shuttle from our parking lot to the course, and there was a girl sitting next to us, and she had a poster board, 8 by whatever it was. It was a big poster board, and the thing was full of autographs. She had a flag that was full of autographs. Like, fantastic! This is what she's looking forward to, and these players are helping things make.
The LPGA is so good at that. I wish, and look, I'm sure that as the demand, you have to be careful what you wish for, right? Like if I keep on saying I want the sport to grow and grow and grow, there's going to be a point where you can't sign every autograph. I would love for the LPGA to have the problem that they can't be as giving of themselves as they are right now. Because right now they have to scratch and claw to get the attention. I would love for them to have the problem of like, guys, there's too many fans here for me to sign autographs for.
Yeah, for sure. Number 4, in the best way, this felt to me like the U.S. men's opens that I've been to in the past. Again, I've been to Torrey Pines and I've been to LACC, and just by looking at it, it felt the same. Now, there were less people, but also when you and I we got there at probably 7:30 or something like that. Yeah, there aren't going to be a lot of people there, but they did it right. The grandstands were all there. They had places to sit. They had, again, volunteers everywhere helping you out. They put on a great show for these fans.
Yeah, no doubt.
Number 3, you and I were front and center when Nelly got her fresh pair of Nikes delivered to her.
We were.
Yeah. You and I kind of looked at each other and we said, what's going on here? And we just see Nelly all of a sudden change her shoes really quickly. And for those who hadn't heard that story, LeBron had gifted her a pair of Nikes to wear for her round at the Riv. And she played 4 holes in it, maybe. On the 4th hole, she had a very poor showing and immediately changed her shoes. And I got to imagine that she knew that she was going to change her shoes by like hole 2 or 3 and quickly blew in a call. I don't know how that was made. I would love to find that out. Like, does she tell
She's got someone walking with her team that she says, "Hey, go back to the clubhouse and get my second set of shoes." Because they have someone. She has someone in the crowd walking with her.
Oh, that's fantastic. Like an assistant? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. So she was easily able to change her shoes. Again, something I never really thought would happen, but I guess it totally makes sense. And my guess is that she's got a few other pairs in her locker. If she goes, "Oh, yeah, my shoes are wet now. Go get me a new pair and meet me at the 10."
Yeah, so just to put a finer point on that, that's one of those times where like broadcast is so much better. Like we had no idea what was going on. There was no context of this, but like Tom said, we were there in real time standing on that tee box where all of a sudden a very short woman runs by us, like just holding a pair of shoes. And all of a sudden she goes to the tee box and she's let under the rope. Very unsuspecting person. And then the next thing you know, she's handing them to Nelly, and Tom and I are looking at the shoes that she's taken away going, "Oh, those are so sick." Like I had no idea these were the shoes LeBron gave her. We just saw her changing shoes, but I shouldn't say we saw her changing shoes because I watched that girl walk away. And by the time I turned back, which that entirety of what I just described was maybe 14 seconds, Nelly already had the shoes on. Like, I don't know. She changed her shoes so fast. And so we just assumed in the moment, like there was just like an equipment malfunction or it was rainy. Again, she was missing the ball right all day. So maybe she was in some longer grass than she was expecting all day and she was having some grip issues. But yeah, for something that made a lot of news, I have to imagine if there were any photography of that moment shooting back at that tee box, we're probably going to, us and our Fringe coverage hats are going to be in the background of a few of those photos.
Yeah. Is Nelly a bunny ears girl? Does she do the loop? All these things. These are the things I want to know. You know that.
Jesus.
Number 2, and you're not going to like this one, Mark.
Oh, boy.
Watching you rub elbows with the bigwigs that we ran into there, like you were so in your element, and to watch you talk LPGA golf with people who know LPGA golf was so enjoyable for me. Like we ran into the NLU guys, and we ran into Mike Wan and Grant Boone, and you're going toe to toe with these guys. You know everything that's going on, and you could talk to them, and I am just kind of sitting back in awe and kind of being a little sheepish, like I am on this podcast. But good on you, because I was really happy for you, because you look like a pig in slop. You were where you belonged.
Weird thing to respond to. I guess, but let's put a pause. That was number 2 on your list?
Yes.
All right, well, let's pause you. We'll make the people wait for number 1. Tom mentioned it. We did get to see. We had coordinated with a few of them who said, "Hey, let's try to meet up while we're there," and shout out. So we somehow ran into Mike Wan. Tom and I were walking up 9 fairway, kind of finishing our front 9 walk, and we're standing there watching a ball in the fairway, and I look up, I was like, "Tom, Mike Wan's standing like right in front of us." And I think we were following Madeline, because Madeline went up and gave him a hug right in front of us. And I was like, again, I don't want to big time anybody. I don't want to put Mike Wan in the position of not knowing who the heck we are. And I know you feel the same way. And I was like, God, I just want, like, we just interviewed the guy. I want to say thank you in person. So put on my big boy pants. I was like, "Mike." And he turned around, and just so he didn't have to do anything, I was like, "Hey, it's Mark and Tom from Fringe." He's like, "Oh, you were the guys that did that podcast a couple weeks ago." And again, whether he remembered it or not, he pretended really well. But just a quick side note on Mike. We were saying, all right, so what does this week look like for you? Are you just crazy? Are you going to watch golf? Are you going to go in the tower? And he's like, "No." Where did he say he was on his way to?
Do you remember? Meeting.
A board meeting, which makes total sense. He said, "Look, everyone flies in for these big events. So it's one of the few times that he has his board in the flesh together, especially post-COVID times." So he had a board meeting. Like the Curtis Cup is next week, which is another USGA sanctioned event. So they're just on to the next. So while we were walking the course, he was literally on his way to a board meeting on the ground somewhere, probably in the clubhouse or something. The dude does not rest. He had an iPad on him. He had a bunch of notes he was doing. He was saying hello to some people. I think you saw some handwritten notes in his back pocket. He did have his Coke Zero with him. But shout out to Mike for giving us the time of day. Again, in its entirety, we walked with him for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But shout out to him for not only doing the podcast, which again, if you didn't listen, was very, very a great primer for what we just watched, quite honestly. But just a good dude. You can tell he gets it. Doesn't seem to, if he has an ego, he certainly doesn't show it. Really appreciated that. Graham Boone, the man, we're going to interview him in a couple weeks. Graham was kind enough to show us around the NBC and USA Channel compound. We got to see the 18th tower, which was actually in the fairway of 18. It took us a minute to figure out where that was. Grant's just so giving of his time. We got to see Tom Abbott and Morgan Pressel and all of them doing doing their thing and the behind the scenes stuff. And he just made time for us at the end of a very long day of announcing.
Yeah.
He was on air for 5 or 6 hours, and it was very nice of him to carve out time for us and show us the ropes. But using
and
your
I will say this to him when we have him on in a few weeks. Impeccable dresser.
Truly.
Oh.
Truly. And also, his voice is just always on. He just has an announcer voice. You know, like I can put it on, right? Like I'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, like he just has it. He talked to us as if he was delivering the broadcast. And then the no laying up guys. This one I will agree. I was a bit of pig in slop on this one. I have not been shy about saying that Big Randy was the reason I started this podcast because of his interest in women's golf specifically. He was super generous to join our podcast really early on when we were still establishing ourselves. Shout out to him and Grant Boone for being those guinea pigs. And I'd emailed Randy prior and just said, hey, we're going to be up there. Would love to see you. And Randy very appropriately was like, look, I'm 6'8". You'll see me. And sure enough, we're in that little alcove of the course where there's like 4 greens and tee boxes all right next to each other. And he and TC from No Laying Up are standing there. And to Randy's credit, he like recognized us. You had got us some Fringe Coverage hats, which definitely helped the cause for him to remember who we were. And then introduced us to Tron right away. And I don't know, Tom, how long we were there, but we ended up seeing them later that night at an event as well. But it was so great just to be with them on the course in a casual setting where you were just talking about what did you think about the pin on 6 and what have you seen so far? Are they playing fast or slow? Randy had just come off a plane. Like he flew in Thursday morning. He had a suitcase. But those guys are the real deal. And for those of you that don't listen to No Laying Up at the expense of saying, hey, if you only got one podcast to listen to, you're listening to the wrong one if you're listening to us. Those guys are so detailed in everything they do. I'm truly impressed how much time and resources they pump in specifically to the women's game, knowing that that's not the only thing they cover. But it was great to be able to chop it up with them for a bit. It was
like a pinch me moment for me because I'm watching the U.S. Open with my best friend and Randy and you. And
Right. You love you some TC.
I love TC. But it's weird because those are people, where you might say, oh, I've been following, Nelly for her 10-year career or something like that. Well, I feel like I've been following No Laying Up for, a handful of years. And I told you this, like if I were to see, if Tom Cruise were on the tee box next to me, I wouldn't say a thing to him. But if Big Randy and TC are there, I would absolutely go say hi to them because those are the people I care about because, for better or for worse, they're in my ears every week. And those are the people whose, I know their kids' names and I know what they, with the college and all this stuff. And they have made themselves so accessible to their fans. And there were plenty of people who went up to take pictures with them and they were very giving of their time, both on the course and at that party. So yeah, they do it right. So yeah,
well, and like you said, we obviously didn't stop for a photo, and I think that's why, for me, being able just to talk with them was a very, very what felt like non-forced, authentic conversation, which like you and I will talk about forever. And I know they thought it was just another golf conversation. It's what they do for, fans first, podcasters second, like us. Like that was just a big deal to be able to spend time with them. So
yeah, I don't want a picture with TC. I want to share a Johnny Pop and talk about the NFL with them.
But you even mentioned it afterwards. Like it's a very weird thing. We know so much about them, not because of time we've spent with them, but because of what they've shared on their own podcast. So when I'm like, hey, Randy, how's the little one? It's like I know so many personal details about them that sometimes you kind of have to remind yourself that it's weird that you know that in a public setting.
Yeah.
Okay, what's number one?
Number one, little sappy, little sentimental. We had the opportunity to watch the best golfers in the world in person, and we were on the front ropes for a lot of that. Yeah. And it's just a very cool experience, and I would highly recommend if the LPGA is coming to your town that you go out and make the most of it. This course, this tournament was 2.5, 3 hours away from me, and I regret zero of it. The next day I drove back up to Orange County, and then I went back to San Diego, and then drove to Orange County the next day, and I wouldn't have changed any of that. It is a lot of driving or whatever. I don't care. Being able to go stand 20 feet away from Charlie while she's making a putt is just such a cool experience that you probably won't get. What does it cost? Hell, there's all these stories now about the NBA Finals at MSG. These tickets are $50,000 a pop or something like that. I just watched, 5 of the best golfers in the world, and I'm standing 10 feet from them while they do it, and I paid $50.
Totally. It was great. I mean, that's a great list, and it's exactly why I wanted you to go first. Just so I'm so curious where your brain went. I've got a couple other things I'll add, and then I'm going to just do my version of that, which is some player specific notes. I wanted you to kind of cover the tournament experience. First off, how uphill is that drive on 18?
Yeah.
I've seen it on TV a million times. Oh my God.
I never want to appear too lazy. So I just, you're like, should we walk back up this hill? And I go, yeah, let's do it. Sure.
I do have a motor, and I apologize for that. I walk fast, and I walk even faster when I'm amped. And but yeah, that drive on 18, I did not realize how high up. Like, it's such a blind tee shot. You have no idea where. You just have to pick a starting line and hope it's right. There was literally
somebody standing in the middle of the fairway with a flag, and you just kind of have to, from the tee box, you go, just hit it at that flag, and pray it takes a nice bounce.
It's crazy. That was my one kind of thing we didn't cover off on the course. That 6th hole, donut hole, is the real deal in person. So fun to watch.
We didn't really get to see any fireworks on that show because the pin wasn't really near the bunker, but later on in the week it ended up coming into play a little bit more.
And then just from an ops perspective, we mentioned it. We drove up, we parked on offsite shuttle parking down in Santa Monica. Super easy. We walked straight onto the shuttle right as it was taken off. We got to the course 12 minutes later. We were right on there. There were people staying, ready to take our tickets, ready to take our pictures. I have heard someone say this before, and it's worth repeating. When you are at an LPGA tournament, you are with family because there is no one there who doesn't want to be. Like, sadly, you have to seek out an LPGA tournament that's not super proactive marketing, right? So if you're there, like, everyone was pretty fired up that they're there, and they're fired up you're there too. So I always kind of appreciate groups like that. So, okay, here's a couple.
I made a comp to the NWSL, the women's soccer league. We have a team, the San Diego Wave, out here, and going there just seems like a big fun party because, well, most people are there for the San Diego Wave. There usually aren't too many, Carolina Pride fans or other teams out there to root against. So everyone's kind of rooting for the same thing. And even in the LPGA, I feel like everybody was rooting just for golf, just to have fun. There isn't much contention going on there as far as rival fans fighting with each other. So yeah, to your point, everyone is just rooting for everybody, which is a fun environment to be in, and not like your typical sporting event.
So after tasking you with trying to recap our experience in a list form, I figured I had some form of list to do myself. And so mine are very player specific. I'm going to call this Mark's Muses and Musings. Yeah, you like that. You like that. This is not in any order. But these are things I noticed that in person were different than what I was expecting or was worth calling out. And I would have guessed, Tom, that at least 80% of these, are coming out of my mouth because I said them on repeat on Thursday. Danielle Kang is swaggy AF, man. Like, Danielle has been up and down. She did not have a great week playing, but if you guys did not see, she was wearing full-on hammer pants, like parachute pants, bright blue pants on Thursday. And this was after Wednesday where she was wearing a different color in a practice round. Like, she looked different, which is such a good thing for the LPGA.
Yes.
I mentioned Inji Chun. I just wrote the word everything next to her. Like, I'm all in on Inji Chun right now. Like, that swing in that short game is crazy. I mentioned Madeline Sagstrom up and down on 16. I think that's the best thing I saw that day from a golf perspective. She had no business. She had such a bad tee shot. She had no business escaping that par 3 with anything other than bogey or worse. And she just took her medicine and made the putt, and 7 months pregnant, no less. So just shout out once again to her.
You got pretty hyped after she made that putt. I
couldn't believe it. I was saying, what is she going to do? What is she going to do? What is she going to do? And then she just did the smart, boring thing and put it to 20 feet. And then she just decided to jar the putt. Gabby's slow, man. Gabby Lopez, we followed her during a whole, do you remember how long she was playing with, Amy Yang? Who did she have in that group that was standing with her hands on her hips right in front of us on 5, along with Julio Lopez Ramirez, and Gabby was just taking forever. And then it sounded like we ran into a couple other people that were saying she was slow. Gabby played good golf, but man, that,
the pace of play
I'm worried
struggles.
about that. Yeah. LA loves Hannah Green. Obviously, she's won in LA 2 or 3 times already. She seems to be her home away from home when she's not in Australia. I was amazed. She was playing with Nelly, and it felt like a pro Hannah crowd while we were following her on the early parts. Now, Nelly wasn't playing great, so that certainly played into it. I think you might be the president of the Gerline Core fan club.
Gerline Core.
First of all, Gerline has a big swing. Gerline is not big. Gerline is very tiny, but her swing looks like she has a 7-foot wingspan, the way she whips that ball. And again, the ponytail effect, that ponytail whips, just like you were talking about with your softball pitchers. But you loved you some Gerline. We were following her everywhere, and just her game is super fun to watch. She seems kind of fearless in that regard, but Gerline, again, another Fringe Coverage alum. I got a kick out of you. When in doubt, you're like, let's go see where she is. Let's see what she's doing.
Sure. I got stalking Gerline.
Lottie, we saw a little bit of. You had pointed her out when we were kind of in that 5-6 pocket of the course. She lashes at the ball. She is not a conservative swinger by any stretch. She really, really goes after that ball. I think that's really true of her generation of golfer. Like we've been talking about the smooth swings of Nelly and Ng. Lottie is a contrast to that. It's certainly a good looking swing, but it is a mighty lash. I was very taken by that in person. Angel Yin does not stop talking. We saw her in the fairway on 1 and 2, and she just did not stop. She was talking to her caddy. She was talking to the crowd.
It wasn't even all golf related.
No. She was fist pumping after a 2-footer, just being silly. Like, just sign me up for anything Angel Yin. It is guaranteed to be entertaining, if not also good golf. It's almost like a byproduct. She's on my team and has not really played well this year, but I love having her on my team nonetheless because she's a great locker room person on my team. Look out for her in the second half. Yanni Sang is scared to death of her putter. You and I saw her playing with Michelle Wee West.
Yes.
And man, I called it in the worst way. Like I early called, I was like, oh, she had about a 10-footer that she badly missed and left herself 3-footer down the hill. And I was like, oh, Tom, there's no way. And she spent an abnormal amount of time over that putt before I made that call and then just missed it by a cup. Like it was bad.
Yeah, as
Yanni,
a lefty putter, I was rooting for her, but.
And again, Yanni famously is right-handed. She was in the wilderness, almost quit the game, couldn't putt so bad that she decided to go left-handed. Obviously has not figured that all out. But that it was tough to watch when you feel someone's putting yips. That's a tough feel. A couple other ones. Minjee Lee is so short. You pointed this out to me. I had no idea how short Minjee Lee was. I think of her, I don't know why I had it in my head that I figured Minjee was like 5'7", 5'8". Minjee is tiny. I just could not have been more wrong on what Minjee looked like. I thought I was looking at Miyu Yamashita, like height-wise. Like Miyu was like not even 5 foot. And then finally, I'm going to hit you with this one. The one player I wanted to see play 10, I got to see. Unfortunately, we were there on Thursday when 10 was playing 307 and no one was going for it, so they were all hitting irons and hybrids as layups. But we stood there for Austin Kim, and Austin Kim pulled driver, and you heard me go, like audible deep breath. Again, Austin doesn't hit a 307 into the wind at Riviera, but I loved, she just saw that like it was worth pounding it up there and probably dumping into that front bunker and trying to get up and down. But it was kind of like the unsheathing of the sword. When that thing came out, I was like, here we go. I'm on 10 at Riviera at the U.S. Women's Open. And one of my favorite players is pulling driver. Let's go. But I could sit on a tee box all day and watch Austin Kim hit driver. It is a wicked, like talk about a mighty lash like Lottie. That one did not disappoint in person for sure. And the last thing, we didn't really talk about it. I think we were there for Nelly's worst shot of the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
We were. I think she teed off on the back 9, and so we caught her on maybe 12. And she was missing dead right all day. Tee shot goes right into some thick rough. We're right behind her, and we can't see her ball, which is never a good sign. And she takes a full swing. She's probably got, 180 to the pin, and it went, Tom, 50 yards. She just caught all grass, no ball, and just dumps it in this fairway bunker that I don't even know why it's there. Like, it's not reachable for them as a drive, but it shouldn't be in play for a second shot. But she chunked the heck out of it because there was so much grass. This was right before I think she changed shoes.
It really
actually,
was.
Now that I
It was
think
like a
about
hole
it.
before she changed shoes.
And then and that wasn't the worst shot of the round, much less the hole, because then out of the bunker, she straight bladed it. She got no sand and towed it, somehow gets like the far right corner of the green for a far left pin, and did amazing work to bogey that hole. So we saw someone who won by one. She could have easily won by 2 or 3 just based on that hole alone we watched. So funny that the person that won, we were the least impressed with walking away with on Thursday. Well, before we move to wrap here and talk about next week, anything else from the week at Riv?
No, man. I'm already looking, trying to figure out where we're going to go next. So that might be its own podcast where we might have to have like a big draft or something like that. But no, I had decently high expectations and they were blown out of the water. It was such a fun day, just start to finish.
Best possible compliment you could give the USGA is that, like, we had high expectations and I think they exceeded mine. Yeah. Well, that is a period, exclamation point, pick your punctuation of choice on just an epic week. We're gonna have a come down. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. The good news is we're only a couple weeks away from the next major. There is an event this week, the Dow Championship. This is a team event in Midland, Michigan. June 11th through 14th, defending champions Jin Hee Im and Somi Lee. They won last year in a playoff over Lexi Thompson and Megan Kang. So think Solheim Cup-ish. It's 4 rounds. Rounds 1 and 3 are foursomes. Rounds 2 and 4 are 4 balls. So again, alternate shot, and then you play your own ball. There is a cut after 2 rounds. The top 33 teams and ties will advance. They pick their own teams dodgeball style. So they go down the list of the Rolex rankings as of a certain time and they say, all right, world number 1, are you playing? If so, who do you want to pick? Nelly got first pick. She chose Olivia Cowan, who is a dear friend of hers. She and Olivia Cowan are going to play. And then they go to number 2. Are you going to play? If so, blah, blah, blah. So that's how they fill out their 144 player field. It's actually 70 teams based off of pick, and then there are 4 sponsor exemptions. You're allowed to pick anybody as long as they are an active LPGA Tour player, with the exception of those sponsor exemptions. So in this case, Angel Yin's playing with Julie Inkster, retired LPGA legend. She would be one of those exemptions. The event started in 2019. Really interesting. You and I talked about this while we were at Riv. There is a purse and points being awarded. So like, I could ride your coattails to getting some much needed points, towards a win. So it's a $3.3 million purse. All of that prize money gets shared amongst the field and the winners between the 2-person teams. And 410 points go to each of the winners. So it is not an insignificant amount of points in terms of the season-long race for the CME. So not just an exhibition team event. This actually does matter for year-end standings as we get to it. So with that, Tom, I guess I should broadcast Thursday, Friday, 8 to 11 on Golf Channel Pacific time, Saturday, 11 to noon streaming, and then noon to 2. So just a short 2-hour window on Golf Channel. Sunday, they move it up a little bit, 9 to 10 on Golf Channel, then 10 to noon on CBS Pacific time. I like the broadcast network, don't love the 2-hour window. But with that, Tom, you correctly picked last week's champion, Nelly Korda. Don't know if we mentioned it, won the U.S. Women's Open, which means you get first pick. And so you are picking a team. Who are you picking to win the Dow and why?
So the team I'm picking is comprised of 2 players that we did get to watch on Thursday. Got to see them in person. I knew I was going to win, so I was already scouting for this upcoming week.
Sure.
I'm a big team chemistry guy. I want to make sure that partners like each other, enjoy playing with each other, enjoy being around each other, almost like sisters. I'm going with the EYs.
Oh, how fun is that?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that pick. Talk about something fun to root for.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go, this week it's kind of interesting is like US Open so hard. Does that, just because you played well here, does that mean once you go back to a run of the mill LPGA course where it's kind of fire at will? I don't know that how well good play travel matters in this case. Like, look, Lydia Ko and Danielle Kang are out there. Danielle did not look good. I'm not picking Danielle just because I got too much scar tissue from watching her. Again, she dressed super swaggy, but I don't think her game backed it up. I am debating between 2 teams right now. First off, Andrea Lee and Yalimi No, kind of USA Solheim Cup stalwarts in recent years. But I'm also looking at Nasa Hataoka and Jin Young Ko. Jin Young has not been playing great. She obviously used to be an absolute stud on tour, but has not been playing great. Nasa had a great week here at the U.S. Women's Open. Almost took a flyer on Hyoju and Heijin Choi. Heijin's been playing great. Hyoju still don't love the way she looked, like you said, at the U.S. Open. So I'm going to go back to the first one I listed. I'm going to go with Andrea Lee and Yalimi No. Anything else as we move to wrap here, boss?
Fantastic time, start to finish, Mark. Thank you. A lot of this had to do with you. You really made this whole weekend just a super fun experience. So I had a great time doing this with you. Next year, I think it's over at where's the U.S. Open next year?
Are we in Toledo at Inverness?
Yes, yeah. Maybe you and I are gonna look at that.
Go to Ohio. Hey, it'd be the spot of where my love for the LPGA sprouted. The 2021 Solheim Cup was at that course at Inverness at Toledo. So it might make the most sense. There would be the 5-year anniversary. No, I guess.
There we go. Put it on the calendar.
No, 6-year anniversary of that. So, all right. Well, had a blast. Thanks to everyone that said hello out on the course. Thanks to everybody who has been listening. Next week, Tom, is our 50th episode. Believe it or not. Yeah, so come ready with some 50 themed something. I'm going to task you with that now. But yeah, man, why don't you play us out?
Cool. If you have suggestions for players or topics to discuss on the podcast, you can send us an email at fringecoverage@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at FringeCoveragePod. And whether you're approaching from the fairway or the rough, we got you covered inside the Fringe.